Hi, I'm Caroline, founder of Equitopia. As a follow-up to our Biomechanics of Engagement video, we wanted to further explore the term engagement, not only in the physical attributes required, but how it might look and feel. For this purpose, we interviewed Karen Loshbaugh of Art2Ride.
When a horse is engaged, you'll see this connection from the hind end that goes over the top line, through the neck, into a softened poll, softened mouth, and then into the rider's hands. What that will also include is you'll see the lifting up of the horse's back that lifts and supports the rider instead of the rider sitting down into a hammock and a stiff, hollow back. You'll also see the hind legs and the forelegs in unison. They don't separate, they're on the same plane, they're in rhythm, they're supple, they're relaxed. And there's also a certain amount of centeredness the horse gets. When they can connect over the top line, the front and the hind end, they're very solid and balanced and square. And it's also a sense of when you look at that horse that they're moving easily. They look like they're better athletes, and it looks very graceful and it looks effortless. Nature tells them to hollow and run away from things, get tense, and when they feel the weight on their back, that's often what they'll do, is they'll tense and drop their back and makes it a very stiff back. So for a longevity of the horse is you have to have them using their muscles and bending the joints in the hind legs so that they're using their muscles to propel themselves along versus very stiff-legged where they're jamming the joints together. So when we see a disengaged horse, what we'll see is a very short stride. We'll see tense hips. We see a busy mouth. He's not relaxed. We see a stiffness throughout the whole body, and we won't see that flowing forward. And sometimes it's just a sense of what the horse is. Is he working under ease, or is it stiff and tense?
When my horse is disengaged, it feels like his feet are stabbing the ground almost. It's a heavier footfall, and he's not stepping up under himself or swinging through his back. Everything feels stiff.
Now we see more engagement in this horse. You'll see a bigger, slower step. He's still slightly lateral in the walk, but you'll see the quietness of the mouth, the relaxation. He's more swingier in the hips, and it looks like the front and the back are more connected.
So when he's more engaged, it feels like his feet hit the ground a little lighter. He takes bigger, longer strides and steps under himself more, and he just feels more relaxed, and I can feel a bigger swing through my hips.
So much as the same as we saw in the walk, we see a very short, stabby trot. We don't see any looseness and swinging. Now we see a much more relaxed horse, quieter in the mouth, the step is bigger, and there's more swing in the hip and more lift in the stride. He's got a sense of connectedness between the front and the hind end. So the goal is to find the position on any horses. It can change from one horse to the other, the pole position and the body position where they can actually engage the best. It's different for every horse. Some horses need to go all the way down to the ground. Some of them can achieve that engagement over the top line in a higher frame. It's always the horse that will tell you, so you just have to watch it, listen to it, and feel it. We have a lot of scientific data that backs up the importance of getting the horse engaged, but at some point you have to set that aside and realize that this is an art form and it's a feeling and a sense. Riding is like art. You're creating this beautiful picture, and it should look smooth and easy and effortless for the horse. And we want the horse to enjoy the ride as much as we enjoy riding them, and that's when the magic starts to happen.
Hi, my name is Will Faber. I'm a classical dressage trainer, and we're here today to talk about engaging the horse's back and why you'd want to do it. So what I mean by engaging the horse's back is simply getting the horse to lift its back up to support the weight of the rider. But more than just that, what that does by lifting its back up is what allows the horse to connect the back end and the front end. Unless the horse's back comes up, those two parts are not going to be in sync with one another. Very often we look at horses and you can clearly see that their legs are not moving together. In the trot, when you see the diagonal pairs, the absolute cardinal rule of classical dressage is that the hind leg and the front leg should move together on those diagonal pairs. By lifting its back and connecting the front and back end, that is what puts the shock absorbers on the horse. By connecting through its back, those shock absorbers allow the concussion of movement to be taken up in the soft tissues instead of the hard tissues of the joints. In days gone by, it was normal for a horse to have a 20-year useful life. Now we're seeing horses only have 4, 5, and 6 years of useful life for this very reason. Their shock absorber system is not working. So every time they're being ridden, all of the concussion of the movement is going directly into the hard tissue, into the joints, into the coffin bone, into those areas that can't sustain it without injury over time. Now for you as a rider, we want to do that because it makes the horse comfortable. Some people think that there's just one goal. That goal is to have the head and neck tucked over like this, we all see of that proud horse. Now, that is true of an advanced level horse that has lowered its back. Its hindquarters actually will lower and the front end will come up, and then we'll have that lovely position that people think of as being in a frame. Round is in the back. The horse can have its head on the ground and be round. How we get a horse to lift its back, in the beginning, the first thing that we have to achieve is to get the horse to seek the contact with the bridle. The French used to call this the descente du main, meaning the descent on the hand. Depending on the level of a horse's strength through its top line, depends on the level of how high you can bring the head and neck. Then it's very simple. All you do over time is simply ask the horse to bring its poll up. Back end is looking good, but I want to get that neck a little bit longer, so then we bring it up. We've had a little more length through the shoulder. There, like that. That's more like it. And now develop a working trot, bringing the poll up, but maintaining the same rhythm. So only bring the pole as high as you can maintain that rhythm. If you feel the horse back drop, then you have to let it drop its head back down. And that's the beauty of the stretching in classical dressage. They don't resist it. Once you teach a horse correctly, we don't encounter all the resistance that we see happening with people who are roll-curring horses and pulling their nose down to their chins and with draw reins and all these kind of mechanical devices. So we have to lift ourselves up, literally pull ourselves up so that there's no downward pressure on the back of that horse at all. Because if you're sitting heavy in the old heavy style of driving down into your seat like this, well, what do you think that's going to do to the back? If you're trying to bring the back up, you certainly wouldn't want to press down into it, right? When the horse's back is up, it should feel like it stretches up into you and you'll feel your thighs spread apart. And it'll be very dramatic the first time you feel it because it makes you feel proud and tall and it brings you up like this instead of collapsing you down. So those are the things, but I highly recommend that you find someone who understands this work and who has a horse that can either get your horse's back up for you so you can feel it, or can put you on a horse's back is already up so you can feel it and then move back to your own. It takes 1 year to establish the top line on a horse. Doesn't matter whether it's a 3-year-old baby or a 10-year-old or a 16-year-old. It takes 1 year to develop the top line to the point that you can begin to develop collection. It takes 2 years to bring a horse into collection. And that's with people who know what they're doing and doing it every day. What a good fellow. What a good boy.